Are you struggling in career mode because it is just too hard? Are you getting destroyed by tryhards in PvP? In any case, I will show you how to become better at piloting your ship. First off, you should read the tutorial, but let's be honest, you didn't do that and you don't plan to do so in the future. So just for you, I will also cover all of the basics. You move by right-clicking. Doing that on another ship makes you follow them. You can rotate with R, strafe with Z, reposition with M, and attack using T. Or you can use the icons at the bottom. If you do not see them, you can enable those commands in the settings. Alternatively, holding Shift, you can also manipulate your ship's position. Holding Alt, you can also set grid relative attack angles, so that you do not move as the enemy rotates. You can both display the attack handles and have grid relative attacks by default with the right setting. The settings are your best friend. So many useful features and hotkeys are hidden there. So please don't be like me and suggest a feature that already exists. Take a look at the available options first. Weapons have different modes. You can select them by holding Ctrl and clicking them. Double click for all parts pointing in the same direction and triple click for all such parts on the entire ship. Hold Shift to add more parts. Maybe you don't have to hold Ctrl because this setting disables itself if you read a certain tutorial, which can cause confusion. Now you can choose between those 4 weapon modes. Fire at will is the default. Hold fire prevents all weapons from firing completely, which is useful to conserve ammunition. Planting mines still works fine on hold fire. In fact, setting mines to hold fire gives you much more control as to when you want to launch them. Auto fire forces your weapons to constantly fire, which has some niche use cases, like shooting enemies in the fog of war, or getting crew to move to a new position and synchronizing your weapon's fire. Fire at target prevents weapons from firing until you give them a target. You should set your weapons to that if you are playing PvP to not accidentally interfere with a duel. It also enables you to do rail fanning, which is essential to use non-overclocked railguns. To do that, you set the rails to fire at target, target apart, rotate to one side, then rotate to the other. Repeat this until your opponent is dead. To save your selection, press Ctrl plus a number to make a control group. Then you can always access that control group by pressing the number again. But now, let's enter sweaty tryhard mode. Let's enter. It allows you to pilot your ship using WASD and control your weapons with your mouse. Doing that is terribly imprecise though, so you should use AI controlled weapons. This way you can just right click the target and the weapons shoot in the right direction on their own. I would also consider centering the camera on your ship, maybe even locking the rotation, so that you yourself can feel as nauseous as the crew does. While we are in the settings, also turn on show firing arcs and turn off auto brake, as it loses you a lot of speed. But maybe you do want more control over your weapons. Competitive players have niche uses for manual control, especially when you want to yeet a projectile so that it goes further. You can control which mouse key fires your weapons, and you can even put some specific weapons on AI control. Another alternative way to control your ship is to use face cursor. Its use cases are smooth turns with avoiders, or with smaller ships that are usually much harder to control. Now we can move, but we can still get better at targeting. Let's use picture-in-picture or simply pip. I highly recommend this setting because your enemy showing in pip is much more useful than your own ship. Also fix the rotation so that it's easier to click the right position. In RTS mode, just right click the opponent and right click in pip to target. In direct control mode, hover over the enemy and press Alt once to lock pip on that enemy, then set your target. Something that you might find annoying is how you always need to reset your attack distance when targeting a new enemy. Instead, use the hamburger menu to save the attack defaults. You might know that some built-in ships behave in unique ways, like ramming or orbiting around ships. You can copy this behavior by loading such a build-in over your ship, ticking only the load attack defaults box and then cancelling the blueprint. This kind of looks like an exploit because it is. If you want to instead reproduce the original method to do this, create a really long structure stick, attack it with your ship, optionally rotate it if you want the ship to orbit, and save the attack default. The rotation amount controls how large the orbiting radius is, but do not make it too large or the AI won't fire its thrusters. Auto-ram is an exploit, but it's completely allowed even in tournaments, and most top players use it, especially on domination ships. I will give you some final tips and tricks on piloting and control. You may have activated your boost before, only to realize that you pressed the hotkey a second time, deactivating it again. To prevent this, you can use separate hotkeys for activation and deactivation. You can also do the inverse by, for example, binding all the weapon modes to the same hotkey so that you can cycle through them. Keep the most important piloting strategies in mind. Ramming restricts enemy movement, therefore makes it easier to focus down defenses and can spread incoming enemy fire. Hiding can allow you to keep you out of your enemy's range, while your longer range stuff can still shoot. Orbiting around enemies keeps you at mid-range, makes spreading damage easier, and keeps your thrusters ramped up. Keeping thrust ramped up is super important on any ships, as it makes you much more responsive and maneuverable. You should hold that W key much more than you would think. Do not play zoomed in like I do here. You can't see the enemy or any possible
The rock provides. The rock provides.
Well, that was weird, but I mean, she was right. Rocks provide shelter from enemies, cover from rams, and warm hugs whenever you don't need them. Asteroids are your best friend if you play mobile ships like avoiders, which can exploit all of these advantages. Other environments like electron clouds can drastically boost damage output, or gas clouds can force long-range ships to close in. And before I go, since I'm already here, I might as well show you how to escape rocks if you have no backwards thrust. First, you can just fly backwards, because magic thrust ensures we always have some movement in each direction. This is slow, but it gets us there at some point. The second way is doing a quick rotation, stopping the thrust and letting the momentum carry you out. This works better on versions of the game that have less drag. But the best way to learn piloting will always be to just do it, so go and do it.